Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Brush. Great to have you on the show, Brush. How's it going?
Yeah, nice to be back. It's good to have you back as well, actually. The last time I was on it, I think it was sadder times. You were off on your lovely holidays, and I had to come on here after the FA Cup final.
Yeah, that's because I anticipated that we were going to lose, so I give the job to
Smart,
somebody else.
smart. It was a very tactical maneuver on your part.
It certainly was. um, we'll not talk about that anymore. We'll move on from that.
Uh-huh.
Although you and Rich did a great job that day. Just unfortunately the result didn't go our way.
Yeah, yeah. It is what it is. But, we move on.
But we are well into the transfer window now, and as always, United have done zero business. Um, um, but we're going to get into all the players that have been linked to United. Well, not all of them, because that would be talking about 140 players. But the main ones that are being talked about, the ones who have strong links to the club. Um, Obviously Mason Mount, the one who's dominating the headlines. Then
Yep.
we have André Onana, and we have Rasmus Højlund. And just there in the last few minutes, it's been a breaking news from Jonathan Northcroft of the Times, who says that Manchester United have dropped their interest in Mason Mount and are now preparing a bid for Moisés Caicedo of Brighton. Brighton value Moisés Caicedo at around 80 million, considerably more than the 58 million plus 7 that Chelsea are demanding for Mount. But United are prepared to take into account his younger age and his different contract situation. So, can I immediately just get your thoughts on that one, Brush?
Wow. Okay. I mean, the strongest links we've had are to Mason Mount, right? We've gone in with three bids, I believe, thus far. So yeah, so that's the concrete offer on the table. Yeah. I don't know how true this is, obviously, but it's a transfer that would excite me. For someone who's so young at 21, he has a lot of potential. I felt like when we played them in the semi final of the FA Cup, he was putting his talents on display, and I believe that he would be a transformative player. Whoever were to get him, if we were to be that club, then I'd be very happy.
The happiest thing about this, from my point of view, is that if Casemiro is suspended, we will have a
Yeah,
direct replacement in the squad. You know,
absolutely, and that's one of the things I'm crying out for this summer as well, because there is no cover for Cass at all. So I was in favour of bringing in at least a backup, an understudy, if you will, but someone like Moisés Caicedo would be fantastic. Yeah, but again, I'm skeptical at this stage though, because I don't know. I don't know if we've got the facilities for that kind of move.
Vibes FC here says we don't have the facilities to get Caicedo. I don't believe it, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
Boo, boo.
Do you know what? Maybe he's being the realist out of everyone, but yeah, yeah. My immediate thoughts are, yeah, I tend to agree with what Vibes is saying. But what a sensational move it would be.
It seems to be wide open for United though, because Chelsea's move for Caicedo was stalled, um, and there's no other club seem to be in for him at the moment. So if
Yeah,
United if United are willing to pay the money, then they can get this player, I think. But obviously,
absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if they sense blood and there's an opportunity, this is absolutely something that we should seize. Because with Mason Mount, I mean, Mount is still there; he's not going anywhere. As far as I know, there's nobody else like as interested as we are. And you would assume that with his contract running down, the closer we get to the end of the window, surely they would give in, right?
yeah, I think so, because reports are suggesting that Chelsea need money, as much money as possible, by June the 30th, because that's the end of the, the financial quarter, the second financial quarter of the year, and then they'll need to post those results in September.
Mm.
If they don't meet FFP requirements when they post those results, they could
To
be in trouble.
to be honest, I think they're probably well on their way to meeting that. With recent sales, I think Kai Havertz to Arsenal is pretty much done, isn't it? 65 million. Kovacic to Man City. So just in those two sales there, they've raised 95 million. and there's a fair few that are looking to go to Saudi as well, I believe. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be in a huge hurry as such, but with Mount resisting any of their renewal offers and with just a year remaining on his contract, I'm not too worried about that one. I'm happy to leave that to a side.
Yeah, my feeling is that Mason Mount will be a United player by the end of August.
Yeah.
Perhaps a lot sooner than that. So just to go back to Jonathan Northcroft's article, he does say that there is sympathy at United for Mason Mount. The offer of 55 million will be left on the table, and there could still be room for a compromise with Chelsea if they are willing to enter talks about closing out a deal around that mark. There is a belief at United that Chelsea are trying to apply the Man United tax. Um, to the Mason Mount deal. It has been noted that Chelsea are willing to deal swiftly with Manchester City over Mato Kovacic in a deal for just 30 million.
Yeah.
Um, Ten Hag is thought to be on board with the decision to switch midfield targets due to United's limited budget. Despite being keen on Mason Mount, Ten Hag wants to use that budget efficiently and not to overpay for players. So all that all sounds positive to me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And listen, with Mount, I mean, if you really want him, why not agree things behind closed doors and be like, listen, if it doesn't happen now, we'll bring him in next summer for free.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there. Um, if Chelsea can either get 55 million now or get
Yeah,
nothing.
honestly, I think that's such a fair price in today's market.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering they accepted 65 million for Kai Havertz, who has 2 years left on his
Listen,
contract, I
they're
think that's a
probably
fair deal.
laughing, and they're probably laughing all the way to the bank with that one. I was actually flabbergasted that they managed to recoup that much.
Yeah, but he had 2 years on his contract. How can they demand the same price for Mount, who has 1 year on his contract?
I assume it's the English tax, and I think, like you mentioned, it's probably the Man United incompetence tax as well. Or over the years, especially under Woodward, we were terrible at buying and negotiating and whatnot, and maybe they think that those rules still apply
Now, the obvious thing to bring up here with regard to Caicedo and Mason Mount is that they are not the same player.
at all.
To switch from one to the other is a bit confusing in that sense. Not that I'm against it, because I think we need to sign both types of. I think we
Yeah,
need a
to be
number.
honest, Carl, it's kind of reminiscent of last year, right? Where we chased Frankie De Jong around all summer to then end up with Casemiro. And when we look at the player profile of player, they're polar opposites. One's a ball progressor, possession based, and the other, though he does do more than it's kind of a disservice to just say he's a DM, but he is mainly a destroyer. But as we've seen in the season, as the season went on, he is more than capable of getting involved in attacks and making those marauding runs forward.
Yeah, so it's kind of a similar situation where we're like switching from a number 8 to a number 6.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm all for it because we've been desperate for backup for Casemiro. Um,
absolutely. And listen, at his age as well, he's somebody that we can sort of plan and build around, and it would be a worthwhile investment in my opinion.
but we also have to take into account there is the possibility that United are playing games here by briefing the
Mm.
media that they're switching targets in order to get Chelsea to accept the 55 million. Do you think that
Uh,
might be happening here?
uh, Perhaps a little bit, but I don't know. I wouldn't give our lot that much credit, to be honest, guys. you know, they've just proved time and time again that they're just incompetent at a lot of things. So it would be a pleasant surprise if that was the case, but I don't know. When I was first, privy to the Mason Mount interest, it caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought initially that he would probably be better suited to Klopp and Liverpool because of that work ethic and the kind of mileage and stuff that he brings. But yeah, I've sort of slowly come around to the idea. I don't think it would be a bad addition. The only thing really that would bug me is the fee involved.
Yeah, it was. I suppose we just have to accept that every summer United are going to have to overpay for players. Um, there is the Man United tax, and then we have the that reputation for caving as well, which
Yeah, this is the thing. So I mean, obviously all of this comes from top down, right? So the biggest thing for me this summer is, whenever the hell this ownership issue finally gets resolved, that's the be all and end all of everything for me.
I refuse to even talk about that anymore until it's resolved.
Yeah, yeah, we've come to a point in time now, mate, where I'm just wondering which comes first, the sale of United or Christmas.
Yeah, every tweet about it now is just regurgitating nonsense.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Which is why I've refused. I've refused to pay attention to the daily Twitter, the in the know people and all the constant updates where you're just rewording the same thing. I'm just gonna wait until Sky Sports announce the breaking news.
yeah, absolutely. I will concur with that. Um, it does seem though that a budget is going to be made available, albeit not a very
Mm,
big one.
hmm
And then player sales could supplement that budget. I don't anticipate there's going to be a change in ownership in this transfer window. I think that's gone now.
To be
Because
fair, the other
yeah,
thing as well, Carl. Sorry to cut you off. When the ownership change does happen, I think it might be a bit too late for this window anyway. Like they're not going to just come in straight away and throw money around. I don't think as much as
yeah,
they would want a marquee signing. I would hope that whoever comes in would have the sensibility to take their time and get the structure right.
uh, I can see that with Radcliffe, yes. But with Qatar, we've seen what they've done at PSG, and no one can tell us anymore that this it's not going to be a state owned operation at United,
Mm,
because we've seen the Athletic and David Ornstein, who's very reliable,
yeah.
report that the PSG chairman has been involved in negotiations. So United are going to be state owned if Sheikh Jassim takes over.
Mm.
Um, no doubt about that. And we've seen, and what they have done at PSG is all about the Galacticos. So I expect to see something similar if they take over at
Yeah.
Old
See,
Trafford.
this is my concern. I think we spoke about it at the time, didn't we, when it was first reported that the main parties that were interested, like proceed with caution would be my thing. Whoever comes in, I've always said this. Like for me, it's about having the best interest of the club at heart and knowing what we're about and building and putting the right infrastructure in place. I'm not for these mega money takeovers where we then turn into a circus like PSG have.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Eagle Eyed Footballs is big up Kellen Brush. Yeah, and a great friend of the show, of course. He hosted the show a few weeks ago. Um, so yeah, I would be delighted to sign Moisés Caicedo. I think the Brighton manager said that both him and McAllister will leave the club this summer.
Yeah,
McAllister has obviously gone to Liverpool, so Caicedo is still up for
and
grabs.
I'll tell you what, Carl, because obviously Declan Rice at one stage looked set to join Arsenal, but I've heard that Man City have joined the race. So, the window could be very small here because if Rice then goes to Man City and Arsenal sat on all that money, they might decide to go for Moses.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And you know, if City signed Declan Rice, which is what I
Hmm
anticipate now, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
I mean, honestly, like it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Really, like I can understand he's got family in London and that, but if this Man City and Pep Guardiola come calling, how can you turn them down?
Yeah, that's assuming that they're not going to be stripped of their honours or deducted points next season or anything like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that may or may not happen, but these things can take years, can't it? In the meantime, there's no doubt in what they've achieved, and I'm sure he would want trophies, right? And also, being a London lad as well, I thought it was kind of strange that he would go to a London rival. If an opportunity to just leave the city altogether and the best
Yeah,
chance of winning trophies came available, you'd think that that's what he would go with.
yeah, Arsenal and West Ham are not huge rivals, but it would be less offensive to go to Manchester, I think.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely, and he kind of left in the best way possible. Taking West Ham to a European trophy, captaining the team.
um, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that was a great way to leave the club to win a trophy in his last game. And it's a perfect way to buy out. And I mean, the chairman David Sullivan accepted that that he will move on now to a club that can challenge for the Champions League. Um, yeah, so if City sign Rice to replace Guduan, that's an amazing piece of business, and means they will not drop in quality that much. And the best way for us to counter that is to sign a player of the quality of Cicero. So that would be a great move. And another thing that came into my head with regard to this potential Cicero signing is that in big games against Liverpool, City, Arsenal,
Hmm.
Barcelona, Real Madrid, we'll have the option of playing Casemiro alongside Cicero,
Yeah,
um, and that will make us more solid. Now, in certain big games, particularly away from home last season, we got overrun in midfield. Be- a lot of it was to do with the fact that Ericsson just doesn't have the legs and to play in that number 8 role.
definitely, definitely. I'll tell you what, that got me thinking actually with our initial interest in Mason. Do you think Ten Hag just saw Ericsson's lack of legs and thought, all right, what I need is the exact opposite, someone who's going to run marathons? I've been calling him Marathon Mount.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. But also we need to take into account that Mason Mount had a loan season in Holland in the Eredivisie,
Hmm.
and Ten Hag apparently has been an admirer of him
For a
since
long
then.
time. Yeah.
He wanted to sign him permanently for Ajax, I believe.
Mm.
But Chelsea pushed him in the direction of a loan move to Derby County because they want him to get experience in English football.
And Lampard was there obviously as well, right? So
Yeah, I mean, and then
yeah,
Lampard's like his godfather.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so if, like Jonathan Northcroft says, Ten Hag is a huge fan of Mason Mount, but wouldn't be adverse to switching to Cicero, even though he's a different
yeah.
player. Now, the ideal world would be to get both of them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then that, well, listen, that's the thing, isn't it? That's where we have to be smart with our limited budget. So, yeah, if that were the case, it would be a no-brainer to go get Moses now, and then agree to get Mason next season if you can't make it happen this summer.
Yeah, and if Chelsea are going to play games
Yeah,
with Mason Mount's future, what he should do in January is sign a pre-contract with Man United. That's how
yeah,
I would
yeah.
approach
So
it.
I think you can speak to foreign clubs in Jan. With other English clubs, I think it comes a bit later on, but he already knows that we're heavily interested in him. So, I'm sure his agent will sit him down and have that conversation. Like our offer isn't going anywhere.
No, yeah, it just seems that offer remains on the table, the 50 plus 5 offer. And if Chelsea are willing to accept that or negotiate something in that region, then the deal can still be done. But it is sensible. If United want to shake off the reputation of paying extortionate fees all the time, they need to learn to walk away and, and,
Absolutely.
and go after other targets, which it seems like they might be doing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if reports are to be believed, Carl, we've made what, three bids now. So you have to draw the line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah. Chelsea are being very unreasonable, in my opinion, and given what they've accepted for other players, with longer contracts. Um,
Mm.
and I know this is a United show, obviously, but it's extraordinary, isn't it? The amount of Chelsea players that have been sold to Saudi clubs.
Yeah, that are allegedly going there. I don't know how many of them have actually happened yet, but yeah, there were so many. Do you know what it gives me? It reminds me of George Mendes. You know how if he once he hooks up with a club, he will try and get all of his Portuguese clients to that club. It's kind of like that. So Chelsea are very nifty at finding loopholes, and they're
Mhm.
using their connections to the best of their ability, is what it is.
Yeah, is it the PIF or the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Yeah,
I believe they have a 5% stake in Todd Bowley's company or something like that. So there's a
yeah,
connection there. Um, yeah. So regards to United, Cicero and Mount, if we get either one of those, they would be great signings. Um, Mount would effectively replace Ericsson in the starting 11, I feel, and Ericsson would become a squad player, which is what he should have been to begin with.
yes.
Um, and Cicero would be there probably to play alongside Casemiro in the bigger games, and be a rotational option as well if Casemiro needs a rest or he's suspended. So both of those are great options. But Obviously the two another two key areas are at the opposite, or the two extreme areas of the pitch, the
Hmm.
goalkeeper and number nine. Those both need to be addressed. Now the biggest links in terms of goalkeeper has been Costa at Porto and Andre Onana at Inter Milan, who of course has worked under Ten Hag before at Ajax. Now it's reportedly United or have walked away from a deal for Costa because of the 75 million euro valuation. Onana will be cheaper than that. So, and United, according to Fabrizio, held talks with Onana's agent in Manchester in the last couple of days. So, Onana, with regard to his ability, now one of the biggest criticisms of De Gea is distribution. Now, Onana's probably one of the best keepers in the world when it comes to distribution. Um, he also commands his area very well. He comes for crosses, which is what we've lacked for 12 years. Um, Probably nobody's as great a shot stopper as De Gea on his day. But overall, it's probably an upgrade on the current David De Gea if we sign Onana. So, what's your thoughts, Brush?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's an end of an era, I think, for De Gea type goalkeepers. All of those kind of keepers are coming into the latter stages of their careers. Um, it's a nice time for him to leave, I think, if we were to move in a new direction. I don't see the point in keeping him on because of the wages it would cost to keep him on if he's not going to be first choice. So if that's the conclusion they come to, I think this is the best solution. As for Andre Onana, I am a fan of his. Um, I wanted him actually when he was a free agent after his drug ban and when he was still at Ajax. I thought he would be a good backup actually at the time, or one of those sort of savvy signings you make where you can at least loan him out and then have the option if you want to integrate him into your team or not. Um, there is a lot of hype around him at the moment though, and I feel a lot of it has come after the Champions League final. If you've seen a bit more of him, like just as good as he is coming out and doing all of that stuff, like don't be shocked if you see a few howlers because he's got that in his locker. As good as he's coming out, the actual fundamentals of goalkeeping, you are taking a hit there. But it all depends on Eric and what he plans to build. Obviously, the relationship is there, so it's someone he knows. Um, this is also another reason why I'm an advocate of bringing in structure along with the ownership change, because you can't just leave everything to the manager. We can't keep signing players that the manager knows or that only he wants, because in modern football, as you know, it doesn't matter who you are, what your reputation is. It's a results based industry, right? Like more than half the league managers that last started last season lost their jobs before the end of it. So that continuity needs to come from the structure, I believe, and you need that DOF or person who's there who can speak to Ten Hag, but also can draw up a short list of players and alternatives, and that's quite important.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of our signings since Ten Hag came in have had some kind of Eredivisie connection. Even Mason Mount has had an education in Dutch football.
Yeah.
So we know that Ten Hag's got his hands all over these signings. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think we're not as incompetent as we were under Ed Woodward, but still nowhere near the level that Manchester United should be.
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely not. Like even last summer, like looking back, if you look at the actual names and by the end of the transfer window, I was quite satisfied with the players we got in. But if you look at the journey on how we got there, it was an absolute mess, wasn't it? We ended up paying probably twice as much as we needed to and what he's worth for Anthony. The Martinez one, I think obviously Arsenal were in there early, and so that started off the bidding war. Had you had him on your shortlist from early because you knew Ten Hag was coming in, that one probably could have saved you a little bit. But then I guess with how he took to the league, that one you can kind of justify in overspending because if they take like a duck to water, then it is what it is.
Yeah, totally agree. Eddie's Football Waffle joins us, and also Scott Hutchinson, who says how Cicero was not Plan A gets me turns out to be Plan B. Yeah, Yeah, he really should have been plan A, shouldn't he?
You and me both, Sam. You and me both. Yeah, because the other day I was reading as well that Barella might be an alternative to Mount, and that's kind of insane to me that Barella would also be a plan B.
So everybody join us live. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, smash a like on the video, and get more of your comments in as we talk. Um, yeah, so Onana, like you say, he's not flawless. He probably make a few mistakes. He's got. Yeah, I'm getting Bartes vibes. Um,
Absolutely. And for those that remember Bartes, let me tell you, right, 25 minutes into the game, we would get a corner. This guy would be stood at the halfway
yeah.
line. Like every time the ball went back, like listen, it used to give me a heart attack all the time the way he used to play out. Um, in this era, they would probably love him. At that time, it was very maverick. I remember one pre-season actually where he asked Fergie to play outfield, and he actually got to debut in midfield for a little bit before getting shipped out.
Yeah, you see some of the clips of Bartes on Twitter, and it just reminds me of how crazy he was.
Yeah,
Um, just
you probably remember the one against Real Madrid, Carl, where he actually handled the ball outside the box, but we got away with it. No VAR in those days.
yeah, there was a few there where he was. Um, he came out towards the sideline and he tried to nutmeg someone and he nearly lost the ball.
Yeah, yeah,
He got away with it. There's a time where he came out to the halfway line and then just played a diagonal pass out to the right wing.
yeah.
Another occasion where the other team were counterattacking, they were getting close to our goal, and I think there was only one defender to beat, and he came running off his line and two-footed the guy, but luckily he got the
Hmm.
ball. Um, and we all remember the time he gave the ball straight to Thierry Henry at Highbury.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that was terrible. Yeah,
um, yeah.
there was the
So
famous the penalty shenanigans against Leicester City. Do you remember that one
yes, yeah,
where he pretended that he didn't know the penalty was being taken and was just playing around with his boots and then tricked Muzzy? Is it? There was also the one he tried to tell Paolo Di Canio that he was offside.
yeah. I was just going to mention the Canio one there. He
In
certainly
the
was a
FA Cup.
maverick.
Yeah, yeah, he was crazy, crazy, crazy guy.
Yeah, like you say, he was in 2003, and that sort of goalkeeper was a maverick. But now it's what every top level manager wants.
Yeah.
And I can see Onana being the type of goalkeeper that'll try to nutmeg Erling Haaland. Let's hope he gets away with it when he does it. But yeah, we do need a progressive goalkeeper. Really will help us build attacks from the
Yeah.
back. And it's obviously a big part of what Ten Hag wants to do. I don't think Ten Hag wants a keeper who's only capable of launching it long into the opposition half, which is what he's had to compromise with De Gea. Um, and when De Gea does try to play it out, he has two left feet. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
to give credit to Dave, I do think he's tried to adapt his game this year as well. I think he has tried to work on his flaws. But you are who you are, Like sometimes there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, I think one of our viewers is on the wind here. He says, "What's wrong with the Glazers?"
What's
Um,
right with the Glazers?
yeah, he's obviously not a Man United fan. We weren't even talking about the Glazers. Why are they a conversation topic? Um, so yeah, Onana will have to take the rough of this move, but I think overall, it will be an improvement on the current version of David De Gea. I just really want to see a Manchester United goalkeeper when we're defending a corner. He comes off his line, he
Come out.
cleans
Yeah.
everybody, and he punches it away to the halfway line. Um, I'm sick of a goalkeeper who's rooted to his line all the time.
Hmm.
And the upgrade in distribution is going to be like night and day. But like you say, the shot stopping, there might be a decrease in quality there, and we might see the odd error. But let's see over the course of the season whether it'll be beneficial to make this change. Um, United are looking at, or was it? Sorry, Inter Milan are looking at 50 million euro fee. We'll see if United are willing to pay that or not. That could be another
Yeah.
transfer that could be dragged out for a few weeks, a few months. But
Yeah.
he seems like he is the chosen one in terms of a new goalkeeper. And De Gea, it's 24th of June. De Gea's contract is up in 6 days. It doesn't seem like that's going to be renewed, does it?
Yeah, it would make no sense to renew unless you plan to keep him as first choice because the wages. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, even on half his current salary, you can't give a number two
It's
goalkeeper
too much for a
that
backup.
money.
I mean, already, Kyle, like our goalkeeping situation is ridiculous because we have Dean Henderson, who we need to get rid of, who's on over 100 grand a week.
Yeah, well, if Forest upon are willing to pay 30 million, why are United dragging this out? This
I
should be
have no idea. We should be driving him there ourselves.
Yeah, that should have been done weeks
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
typical of this club. Um, so let's move on to you know, what's quite ironic is that the number one position we needed to sign a player this summer was a striker,
Yes,
and currently that is position that has been talked about the least.
the least.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and the only striker who's been hotly linked with the club
Mm,
is a very, very inexperienced one,
mm-hmm.
from Atalanta. That's Rasmus Højlund.
Yep.
Um, now, like the latest reports were saying that Atalanta were charging, looking at somewhere in the region of 70 to 80 million euros, which is obviously too much
Ah,
for a player who got 10 goals in 34 appearances last season. Um, he's had the previous to his stint at Sturm Graz, he had 12 goals in 21 games.
so what could we
Um,
really judge on a player
yeah,
from what he done in the Austrian league?
no, we can't. We can't at all
You
judge him
know?
on that.
Yeah.
I suppose the most impressive stat is that he has 6 and 6 for Denmark. If he keeps that rate going,
Mm.
he's going to get 100 goals in the national football. Um, yeah, but we're obviously going to have to pay. I would probably say at least 15 million euro. I would say if they're quoting 80 at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know where these people get these figures from. It's like it's out of thin air, isn't it? Because I was hearing at the start of the window like close to 35, 40 million euros, and now that's just it's skyrocketed since
But
United's reported interest.
yeah, well, that's always the Man United tax. It's been the theme of this show,
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
and
I
they
mean,
know
yeah, having looked at the player for someone who's 22 years of age, I think he's
20,
developing well.
20.
20, 20.
Yeah,
He's developing well. Um, but I see him pretty much as a backup striker if he was to come, you know?
yeah. If we buy him, we're buying potential, aren't we? We're not buying the
Yeah,
finished
that's what it
article.
is. But then we're so scarce up there that if we were to buy him, we'll chuck him in at the deep end because we've not really got anything else.
Yeah, he might end up being our only buy in that position, unless we get a Gallo back on loan again. Um, now Harry Kane, unless Spurs come down to 80 million, that's off the table. Um, Oshiman, I mean, you're talking 150 million euro.
Yeah, that one's not
Not going to happen.
realistic. With Kane, I'll tell you what, I'm glad that Levy's come out and said he's not for sale because I thought that would be the story that would, run and run and run this summer. I thought that would be a saga. At least that's nipped in the bud now.
Yeah, yeah, we should all be thankful for that. That we're not going to have to put up with a saga until August 31st.
Yeah.
Uh, and then
It's
end
a
up.
shame because listen, if they were willing to negotiate for a somewhat fair price, he's ideal. Like footballing wise, like we would be very lucky to have him, and he would have been the perfect fit for us.
The thing is, from their point of view, is that they'll never be able to replace him. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing, Carl. Like for me, I think so. It's kind of hard to decipher what Spurs' goal is. Having had serial winners in like Jose and Conte and that going left, I don't really know what their aims are or where they go from here. But I would assume, being that the money savvy businessman that Levy is, that he would want to try and qualify for Europe, at least to secure the funds from that. And having a player like Harry Kane in your team definitely aids that cause.
yeah, I think Harry Kane is worth far more than 80 million pounds to Tottenham at the moment.
Exactly, that's the thing. So they would rather use him for another season if they can get returns like they did this year, and if that helps their push towards a Champions League spot, and then lose him
So
for free rather than sell him now.
yeah, they're not going to get the Champions League spot though. Let's be realistic. It's too competitive now for a
It's
team that
very competitive, isn't it? With the changes being made to the Champions League, I've heard rumors. Is it going to be fifth spot as well next season?
uh, uh, potentially from 2024-25, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Right. So earlier in the show, we suggested that United could sign Caicedo now and Mount on a free next year. Let's see how that develops. How about we signed Rasmus Højlund now and Kane on a free next summer? Would you?
That would also be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we do need someone for the now, and he would have a year to come in and get to know the league, and then yeah, and then there's no pressure on him second year if that were to happen. If Kane were to come in,
And of course, there's going to be complaints from fans that we're
yeah.
signing another veteran striker, but
Uh,
on a free, it's a great deal in
I
my
mean, on a
opinion.
free, it's a no, absolute no brainer on a free. Personally, that's what I would be looking to do, Carl. I'd be looking to, especially if we are working on a budget, I would try and get pieces into place now where if we can fix everything else that needs fixing, and next summer you bring in Kane and Mount, and those can be like the finishing touches to something that we're building. I think it'll be easier to sell the project to them as well, especially to Kane, because I'm sure a lot of European clubs will be looking at him.
Yeah, the only thing is, um, if we're not getting our number one targets this summer, particularly in the number nine area, then
Hmm.
we've no chance of challenging for the league. But then we never really anticipated that anyway, did we?
Yeah, not really. Like even when we look at the position in the league this season, like nobody at the start of last season could have foreseen what was to come with the drop off of Liverpool, the absolute capitulation by Chelsea, um, and also we have to contend now with the rise of Newcastle as well. Sandro Tonali is a marquee signing for them and a real signal of intent that they're not just in the Champions League to make up numbers. They really want to progress to that next level. So the competition in the league is has never been fiercer.
Yeah, it's massive. And I think the Premier League is going to be thankful for that fifth Champions League spot because it'll stave off the threat of the Super League for another while. Because if there's seven big clubs all vying for four spots, three are losing out every year, then they're going to be like, "Fuck this, let's join the Super League," you know. So,
Yeah,
um,
I'm not a fan, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the new format that they're going to introduce to the Champions League either, and with just the continued dilution of the competition by adding people in. It just feels as if they're doing it all just for money, which they pretty much are, isn't it?
yeah, they're compromising with the big clubs around Europe, and particularly this Juve, Barca, and Madrid, and the Premier League clubs. Obviously, they're compromising with them after the whole Super League debacle.
Hmm.
UEFA are so terrified now of a breakaway competition that they're now caving to all these demands. So we're seeing, yeah, like we talked about, the potential of five Champions League spots for England. Teams getting spots based on fair play, more games. Is it the potential for two round robin phases in the
I think
Champions League? Yeah.
I've not fully looked into it, to be fair. But yeah, I didn't like some of the suggestions, and I just kind of gave up, to be honest.
Yeah. What the big club executives want is the likes of Bayern against Madrid, United against Barcelona,
Yeah,
and
and
every
and
season.
yeah, and that it's a money spinner, isn't it? Like the beauty of a cup competition like that is, is it's that excitement and the unknown factor when it comes to the draw, and not knowing when you're going to play these teams and get those fixtures.
Yeah, sometimes we can go for 10 years without playing Real Madrid, and then it's a
Yeah,
big deal. It's a big deal when it
and then
happens.
it's a huge deal. Yeah, if you know something's happening and it's just marked on the calendar every year, it takes something away from it for me.
Yeah, it takes away the kind of, I don't know, the romance, if you want to call it that, or the anticipation. If we're going to be playing Real Madrid as often as we play Chelsea, it just doesn't mean as much anymore.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It takes away from it.
Yeah, it doesn't really have the glamour as much as you know. Yeah, playing teams too often does get a bit tedious and boring. Like no better example than that is the fact that Celtic and Rangers play each other 7 times a year. That is
Yeah,
so tedious.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Um, yeah, so Is there any other? Oh, now we don't want to talk about the ownership situation. Like we've said, it's not progressing at all. And once it does, then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, is there any other Man United news on your mind that you want to discuss?
Not particularly. Not particularly. I think we've touched most things. I've not actually checked anything today. Like apart from this Sociedo news, I haven't heard anything. Is there anything else that we missed out on, Carl?
Well, not unless something has broke in the last few minutes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I guess we could touch on Rashford's new contract.
Yes. For me, the wages are too high.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He's on 375, isn't he now? Um, he was on 200 before, I believe. I would have been happy with about 280. But it's one of those situations where I think he was holding more of the cards because a player who's had a season like he's just had in his 20s, like in the open market, he knows what he's worth, right? And how much it would cost to replace a player like that. So yeah, they played their cards well, I would say. Um, yeah, it's a bit of a concern for me, but again, this goes down to the lack of structure and stuff. Like that's something that I would like to see implemented. Some frame of wage structure. Like we've got the likes of Jadon Sancho on 350 a week, which is ridiculous. We need to bring all of that down.
yeah, Rashford's agent and brother played a blinder there, obviously. Like Paul Stratford did all those years ago.
Mm.
But yeah, it's far too much. I don't
I
mind him
think,
getting a
yeah,
pay raise, but
yeah,
that's too much.
I think ideally what I would have liked to have seen is uh, we had the option to extend for 1 year, right? There was a 1 year extension option. I would have just utilized that for the time being, and then waited till the ownership stuff was resolved, and then leave it up to them to sort out.
I think United might have been scared and letting him get into the last 6 months of his contract, especially when
Yeah,
he can negotiate with foreign clubs and all that in
yeah,
January.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's a concern, I guess.
Um, but yeah, but the thing is, both of us are in agreement that his wages at 375k a week is too high.
Yeah,
But if he delivers the goods, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
yeah. But for me, like Marcus Rashford has a ceiling, but I'm not sure if others see it like that. Like the Marcus Rashford we got this past season, that for me is close to his best. But that's not just the patches in which he scored. I'm talking overall the entire season. I think some people saw those numbers and got very excited and thought, all right, now give me even more. And I don't think Marcus is capable of that. I think he's given you the best of what we're going to get out of him.
Yeah, you're going to get peaks and troughs with Rashford, and
Yeah,
that's what
exactly, exactly. And hopefully, if our aim is to get back to where we once were, to be competing for the top trophies on a consistent basis, we need a situation in which we're not so reliant on the likes of him, and we need players of his ilk to become more rotational.
now this is interesting debate. Um, Another player who plays in Rashford's position on the left could be made the new number seven this summer, which I'm sure you've seen. Alejandro Garnacho. Um, my first question is, what do you make of that? And secondly, do you think there's room for both of them in the starting 11?
Too much too soon with regarding the number seven and all of that. We have to remember his age. Uh, um, the tale of Adnan Januzaj still haunts me. Um, I would like this young lad to just keep his head down and keep working hard. It's very hard in this day and age to do that, but you see it now with the even little thing. I think it's my age as well, Carlo. The way I see things, I'm starting to turn into a proper grumpy old man. Like I see all the tattoos and the haircuts and all the flashy things and the superstar stuff that comes off the field and all the rest of it. And I just want him to play ball. I just want him to, do the simple things. And I just think, yeah, the number seven is just a step in the wrong direction at this stage for me. First of all, I need you to establish yourself in the team. Like at this moment, I very much see him as a very useful option to have, but I see him as an impact sub.
Yeah, it seems strange to give him that number when he's not an established member of the starting 11 yet. You know,
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a player that, if he keeps his feet on the ground, has a very bright future at the club. He's just signed a new deal of his own, and we're all very excited about him. Now the Onana'S thing, obviously, still means that we remain cautious about
Hmm.
Garnacho, but I would say overall he has more ability than Januzaj. The fact that he for one, Januzaj is very left-footed, whereas Garnacho is very good with both feet. Um, and he's he's a very exciting player. Um, but both him and Rashford favour playing on the left.
They do.
How are we going to fit them both into the same team?
Do we
Yeah,
have to fit them both into the same team? If our aim is to, get back to where we once were, we need options, don't we? And that means squad depth and having quality options as number one and number two choices.
yes, I agree. But will we be able to keep them both happy if in that
Uh,
situation?
I mean, this is where the manager has to do his thing. Like, how does Pep keep his players happy? Like, nobody was complaining when 60 million Riyad Mahrez arrived and he was sat on the bench. What an incredible option to have coming on as a sub. Like, who could do? Who else could do that? Like, he'd get into every other team.
I suppose when you win a treble at the end of it, you're not going to be complaining too much.
Well, yeah, but even that's been a process, right? Like, they weren't winning trebles when he first arrived, but he still sat on the bench for ages. You know, so
Yeah.
like we done it in the past with
Well,
Fergie. Obviously, different times when it was more 4-4-2, so it was
well,
easier to accommodate than now. But keeping four strikers happy is quite an achievement.
well, Mahrez, he has got a lot of game time, from my memory. But one player
Yeah.
who hasn't is Calvin Phillips. There's no way he's happy despite the
Oh,
medals.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was asking Rich today actually when I was chatting to him earlier. I'm not even sure if he's made enough appearances in all the competitions
Yeah.
to qualify for some of the medals. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure he's gutted because obviously he was
Um,
injured, so it's kind of out of his control.
with regard to the Premier League, I don't think the 10 appearance rule applies anymore. I think if
Okay.
you still get a medal if you're a member of the squad.
Yeah, because I
On the
remember we had to apply for a special one for Henrik Larsson because
Yeah,
the
that's
loan
right.
was only for a short time.
Yeah, that's right. With regard to the Champions League, the whole squad get a medal.
Okay.
Jonathan Greening, Wes Brown, they all got medals in '99. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. And Calvin Phillips winning the Champions League has got the Jonathan
Mm.
Green vibe about it. Because
Hmm.
what role did he play in that?
Yeah.
None.
None.
Um. uh, but he is a player now that they can use as a make weight, if they want to. For example,
Absolutely for Declan Rice, perhaps.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It would be a smart bit of business that.
So, and he constantly freshens up the squad every summer as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Guardiola now, um, Guduan or Gundogan, how it's pronounced, he is left to go to Barcelona. Bernardo Silva keeps getting linked with a move. I think he's going to move on.
I think he's been linked to Saudi now and PSG, so one of the two is a real possibility. He's 28, but this is the thing. Pep's already said it. Like whoever wants to leave can leave. That's the position they're in. And when you have that kind of financial might and backing, I suppose it makes it a little bit easier to speak like that. But it's still very impressive that he can make those calls. Like who else in their right mind would have got rid of João Cancelo midway through a season and not have a
Yeah,
replacement?
yeah. They won the treble without a left back.
Yeah, yeah, they just gave up on fullbacks altogether, didn't they? Like, yeah. Initially, when Zhao was allowed to go out on loan, I think Rico Lewis stepped in. Yeah, out of the youth team. Madness.
Yeah, and then brought John Stones in to play in a double
Eh,
pivot in
and
midfield.
and he did a bloody good job in midfield.
Yeah. I know it's not a city show, obviously, but what we'll probably see if Rice comes in is he'll take John Stones' position in midfield, and then John
Yep,
Stones will move back into the back line.
yep,
Um,
yep. And
to
then
just keep,
he'll learn things off of Rodri as well. It's yeah, uh, De Bruyne's now entering his 30s, so with Declan coming in, it probably means that De Bruyne can just work more on building that partnership with Haaland, give him probably have less defensive duties.
yeah. And all this just reminds me how we need to sign someone like a Caicedo, because if we're going to keep pace
Absolutely,
with City, we
and
need to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to keep pace is a strong word. I mean, they're so far out of sight now.
Well,
Like
we'll
uh,
catch up. I think catch up is the
yeah,
phrase.
yeah, but yeah, I think one of us is sprinting and the other's going for a brisk walk currently.
Yeah,
But yeah, this is why it's important that we identify the right targets, the right age profiles, and that's why I think if
yep.
there is any chance that we can get Moses Caicedo, we should move. He's a transformative player. Just based on what we've seen this season, it's really sad as well to when you think back because obviously he was on the table for us before he went to Brighton for about 5 million, and we totally messed that up.
Yeah, but that's our ownership structure for you, or
The lack thereof. But but this is the other thing though. You can't have too much time to dwell on the past because football is
no.
forever moving and changing. So you have to
Yeah.
adapt.
When you have accountants making football decisions, this is why. And when you have jobs for the boys as well, like
Yeah,
Darren Fletcher signing his twin sons from City's academy to United's academy.
I mean, if it's based on merit and the boys are good, I have no problem with that. If it's just because of the connections, then I'd be concerned. But yeah.
Yeah, if they have to turn out to be world beaters now, otherwise I'm going to be very unhappy.
I'm probably less harsh. I value everyone that comes through our academy. Like even if you are, even if you're a squad player, if you come through the academy and you can contribute to what we're doing, the more the merrier, I say. And we have such a rich history of that as well. I take pride in
I'm obviously not being totally serious, but yeah.
that. Yeah, I know you're messing about, but just for those listening, it's important to clarify these things.
Yeah, I don't want things to be taken out of context and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Happens quite a lot in this industry, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. You get clipped up, yeah, selective hearing and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So if we're being honest, Casemiro is going to be over the hill in about 2 years.
Well,
So
yeah,
just
this was. Do you remember when we spoke about it last year, Card? This was one of my concerns. Like, absolutely, he's better than anything we've had in many, many years, and wealth of experience and everything he brings. But when you do sign a player on the wrong side of 30 on high wages, it can go either way. And also, no matter how good you are, once you're past 30, as a rough barometer, your abilities are only going one way.
yeah, you're not going to improve from there, are you?
Yeah, and your value as well is also going down. So because you do have to look at it as a business as well. So both things, you need to. It's a fine balance.
So that's why Cicero would be a perfect addition
Yep.
in midfield. He's 20.
Especially if you can't afford him amount now, which is why this makes sense. Where if you target him now and then get Mason next year, ideal.
He's 10 years younger than Casemiro. Okay,
Yep.
he's not going to supply the goals that Casemiro does, but he
I mean, that's
he
not what you need from your DM, anyways. Really.
yeah, we just need him to perform that destroyer role, and
Yeah,
we've
if he can just, we just need to fortify our midfield. We've been too easy to bypass at times.
yeah, and like
And I'll
we
tell you
said.
what, another thing, Carl, if it is Mount coming in, right, I actually feared for Cass, because obviously it's quite a chunk of money on Mason, and then I wasn't sure if the budget would be there for any kind of cover for Casemiro. And I was trying to piece together in my mind how it would work, right? So if you're going to use Mason and say Bruno as like roaming eights, and if that's the kind of thing we have in mind, Lord help Casemiro, he's gonna die out there.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of grass to cover, isn't he?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then in terms of that as well, like, we've seen what the Premier League and the pace of it has done to Cass. As good as he's been, there's been times, especially towards the latter end of stages of the season, where, some of the challenges are a bit late. The referees have got an eye on him anyway because of his reputation, and things don't quite click sometimes.
Yeah, I felt even in the, I know I'm being a bit overly critical here, but I felt even in the FA Cup final, Casemiro
Mm.
was looking a bit tired, a bit leggy. Um,
Again, but he has to do the work of two men because obviously Ericsson's next to him and can't really move. Bless him.
yeah, he had to come off after about 62 minutes for Garnacho in the final. He was
Yeah.
he was done by that stage. Plus, it was such a hot day as well, and the Wembley
Yeah.
pitch is huge. Wembley pitch is huge, and
And
then
that
again,
first goal, I mean, it was a stunning goal by Gundogan, take nothing away from it. But again, shell shocked we were at the start. But Ericsson really should have been closing him down. Shouldn't have been allowed to get that shot off.
uh, Ericsson, I from memory, in the 6-3 thrashing, lost Phil Foden, I think, for one of the goals as
Mm,
well. So you're asking a number 10 to play in a pivot role is just
yeah,
too much of an ask, really. Especially a player who's kind of low on energy at this stage,
yeah.
especially after what happened to him at the Euros. We're asking far too much of him, and
Hmm.
Ten Hag has recognised that, and that's why he wants to bring in bring in the likes of Mount and Caicedo this summer. So and like you've said many times last season, if you have Ericsson as a rotational option, it's
Yeah,
perfect to have that kind of option on the bench.
yeah, absolutely. He brings such experience and calmness, and yeah, even just having the dressing room, it's great. But yeah, you just can't rely on him as a starter week in week out.
And I just wanted to touch on something before I forget. We've mentioned the incompetence of United's recruitment team in the last 10 years, and I couldn't believe this. I
Ah,
heard this.
think I know where you're going with this. Is this the Zidane ball sale?
Uh, no, but
Oh, okay.
we could talk about that if you want. That apparently a scout who's currently employed at the club,
Hmm.
he's still there and he's earning a big salary. He once went to scout Mbappe at Monaco, and he came back to say that this guy will never make it, and he's still employed by the club.
Wow, wow,
That's
wow.
that.
That's a howler.
That was a stunning revelation that I seen on the Stefford Paddock YouTube channel, in one of their podcasts.
I guess we need a bigger sample size to judge him, but that's one hell of a howler.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean,
You
that's
know,
about
because
it.
I remember Fergie went to see David Silva play back in the day and deemed him not good enough for the Premier League. I don't think he thought he had the physicality. So you know, there's sometimes people make mistakes, but that yeah, it's one of those, isn't it?
Well, to make up for that mistake, you need to be discovering Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Rivaldo.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah, you pretty much need to unearth everybody else, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, the only thing I wanted to touch on about Zidane Iqbal is um, I'm not upset that he's left. You know, good luck to the kid. Um, it's more the fee that I had an issue with, or the lack thereof. He's been sold for 1 million euros, um, in English pounds at the time of the sale. That works out to be about 850k. I just feel that kind of nominal fee you could have got at any time. So I was a bit surprised. Like, why not loan him out and see if he develops?
Yeah, and 1 million euros. What a tiny
Yeah,
fee.
especially when you look across board at the big clubs, right, who sell off their youth players, and a lot of whom have never even made a first team appearance for the senior team, but they're getting 5 and 10 and 15 million and 20 million. And why are we selling one of these kids for just 1 million euros?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, I just feel as if this is the kind of fee you could have always got for him, you know, later down the line. So why not loan him out, see if he develops? Or when I saw little bits and pieces of him, the one concern I had was his lack of size, right? But we've seen the likes of Nani and Cristiano be put on specific programs to bulk up and stuff. So I thought, all right, maybe the kid needs to fill out a bit. But these are things that you can work towards, right? So either the management really don't rate him, or I don't know, somebody messed up there.
Yeah, what I read the other day, I know there's a lot of articles around at the moment, but don't know how true some of them are. But
Mm,
this one kind of makes sense given what we're seeing. Is that Ten Hag will not give youngsters a chance unless he really believes they're top level. He
yeah.
wants to he wants experienced players. Um, and if he's going to give a youngster a chance like Garnacho, they have to be someone who has a very high ceiling.
Mm.
If he doesn't believe they have a high ceiling, then he won't really bother with them. So
Right. I mean, that I can sort of understand because with what our aims are, it's not really conducive to. We're not at that stage yet where we can really concentrate on developing youth, you know? We have to get to the promised land first before we can then switch our attentions to that. It just, yeah, it just, I was left a little bit baffled by the fact that we've just sold and not thought a bit more long term, even finances wise.
Yeah, it did surprise me slightly, but they have inserted a big buyback clause, I think. Oh, no, not buyback clause, a
Sell on
sell-on
clause.
clause.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
sell
sell-on.
on clause. But then, even with that, I mean, he would have to develop and he would have to actually be sold on. If he runs his contract down at the club, then we're left with nothing, like Wilfred Zaha's done at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a big sell-on clause there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, we had, yeah, I think it was like a 25% or something. So ideally, it would have been great had he gone to Arsenal a couple of years ago. Um, had Arsenal signed him instead of Nicolas Pepe.
At this rate, we'll be signing him as a free and playing him up front.
I mean, we would take pretty much anyone, wouldn't we? Bar, I think what Weggy coming back. Thanks, but no
Oh,
thanks.
it has
Uh,
to be someone who can finish.
just
That,
yeah, just hit the target, test the goalkeeper, please. We don't ask for much these days.
yeah, it's not a surprise that Weghorst didn't even score against Gibraltar for Holland.
Yeah.
Um, and he was heavily criticised by the media for his performance in that game.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it hasn't even been announced by the club that Weghorst and Sabitzer are not returning. We're just left to assume. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you'd
just
guess.
Um, yeah, we know that Vigors was going to be released, but we're expecting some kind of communication about Sabitzer, but there's been none
Mm.
at all. Has none.
Nope, nope.
So
Yeah, the injury came at the wrong time for him. I certainly wouldn't expect to see him back. Especially the other thing we've got to take into consideration as well is the change of management at Bayern. So
yeah,
yeah, who knows what Tuchel
and
has planned?
he's in that 29 age bracket, and I think
Yeah,
Ten Hag wants to lower the average age of the midfield, and Sabitzer
yeah,
doesn't do that.
yeah.
So
That's fair enough. One of the things I found with Mount as well is like, yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes. In terms of age profile as well, and also the homegrown factor. We need a quota of that fulfilled as well. I thought that might be one of the reasons as well why we're pursuing him.
yeah, definitely. So we'll wrap it up there for today. Everyone could please drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get more of your comments in down below. And hopefully next time we're on Brush, we're talking about a brand new shiny signing or two.
Hopefully, or Christmas comes early and we hear about the sale.
Let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. I think that I think we're more likely to see signings than new owners, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah. I might see Santa literally fly down my chimney before this happens.
Yeah, it could be Christmas when it happens at
Uh
this rate. Um, there's there was predictions from fans that it will drag out to the end of the year, and it certainly looks like it could go that way.
Yeah.
Um, Probably September at the earliest before the new owners get the keys to the club, because the Premier League will be doing background checks on new owners as well, and that'll take a few weeks, or perhaps even 8 to 12 weeks, what we've been told by the media. So
Okay.
it's so even when the deal is agreed, it doesn't mean that the process is over. This is going to
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because I think people look at the Chelsea deal as like as a template, but we have to remember that was. I mean, the government of the country ushered Roman out. Let's be honest, you know. So it was in
yeah.
everyone's interest to sort of fast track that one.
That what happened to Chelsea is not a blueprint for any other
Yeah,
club.
yeah, it's really not. There's some mitigating circumstances there.
Yeah, and look how long it took the Newcastle takeover. So if that's if that's anything to go by,
Yeah, yeah.
it could be a long wait. But let's wait and see. So Brush, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.
It's a pleasure as always. Thank you for having me.